What is going on, YouTube? What is going on, Kansas City? And what is going on, everybody? And welcome to the Beat of KC. If you can't tell, I'm extra fired up tonight. We have Kyle Henning on the show, ladies and gentlemen. This is absolutely amazing. He is a member of the SIA network, also covers the Chiefs through Kingdom Says Pod with Garrett, who we had on a couple weeks ago. Man, Kyle, I'm fired up for a couple reasons. The Chiefs season's about to start, and two, Twitter game was absolutely rampant tonight on the love when it comes to putting out content. I'm super pumped up, man. Thank you for coming on. I'm super excited. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's Thursday. We got Chiefs football tomorrow, the last one of the preseason before we get to real football. It's almost the end of the week, so that's always a good thing for all of us that work those day jobs, and everybody's got one of those for the most part. You were correct. It was a good day today on the Twitter sphere. Mr. Lionel Dalton got himself a kidney jelly roll, new kidney for jelly roll at work. Thank you, everybody who helped share that, talk about that. Our friends over at Chiefs Concerns, Jason Dunn, Eric Warfield, Marcus Dash, everybody in the Ravens community, because I know a bunch of Ravens flock did a bunch of stuff. We can all come together on stuff like that when it comes to helping these guys. And Lionel is one of the most genuine, nice human beings I've ever had the pleasure of talking to and interviewing. So it was a blast. And I'm so happy for him. I hope everything's going well. He's, I think, in surgery right now. Pay attention to his Twitter. His publicist, who is also a super nice lady, is keeping everybody updated on that. It's a big deal, and I'm super happy for him, man.
For sure. You know, I told you congratulations through Twitter, but this is my first time actually talking to you in person. So congratulations on getting that interview with him and Albert Hainsworth. That was absolutely sick, man. And you guys did a phenomenal job. So I did want to congratulate you on that before we dive into the
appreciate it. I'll share you a little secret. Albert's a part of the Say It Again network. He's a friend of the network. So
is he?
Oh. He's on our one of our Titans podcasts with a couple of our friends over there, the old Titans Beat podcast. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, yeah,
you'll hear more of him. They've been a little dormant. He was busy. He actually not long ago, if you guys checked out the interview, he had pneumonia that caused him to delay getting pneumonia caused by COVID, I think, caused him delay getting his kidney, and then he finally got to get his kidney, and then he got recovered, and now he's great, man. So it's great to have that happen for him too. That episode was, man, that was a lot of fun. It was also, be real honest with everybody, that was nervous. That was one of the more nerve-wracking ones we've ever done. It was a lot to do because it was super important to us to get that message and get his story and try to make sure everybody understands what he's going through and not just him, but everybody that has to deal with anything like that. Like, it's not just these guys. And that was the thing that was so nice to me and intriguing to me about both of them, is it was spreading the news and the word for other people that are going to end up going through this stuff too, not just a couple of NFL players who unfortunately had to deal with the stuff that they've, according to them anyway, feel like their playing careers probably helped contribute to. And it's, if you look at the science and the evidence, it's kind of hard to argue otherwise. So
yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, again, that was incredible. I'm ready to dive into these questions for sure, man. I've been hyped I've been thinking about it all day. So you mentioned it. Tomorrow, we're heading into the final preseason game. It is at home at the new GEHA, field at Arrowhead. Yeah. That's crazy, man. It's going to be tough to say this year, but
you can help yourself. Just skip the whole front half of it and say we're going to Arrowhead like we have forever, because okay. This is, I guess, we'll just get this out of the way early on this. The easy part about this is they did it so they could. Do you see that new locker room?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me help you. GHA being plastered on every entranceway and half of the signage at Arrowhead paid for part of that locker room, if not all of that locker room.
Oh, yeah. That was incredible.
It's probably added money to the coffers for, say, some signing bonuses for some guys that we have to convert money up front that helps Clark keep the cash flow rolling. Like, we may not like it. It may be stupid. It may be ugly. I wish they would have left some of the traditional signage alone, like the exterior signage, like specifically the one that's been there for literally ever with the same print on it. That one I wish they would have left alone, and I get why everybody's frustrated. But at the same time, just call it Arrowhead. I mean, they turned the replies off to the tweet when they announced, like, they know. But at the same time, it's a business.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you're seeing it across the NFL. Like, I mean, it's just, that's how it's going down. I
Mile
think the
High.
funniest part of the whole thing, though, I don't know how many fans, because when they were panning through Arrowhead, they actually lit off fireworks when they dropped the banner to show GEHA Field at Arrowhead, and they lit fireworks. And I looked around and I'm like, the only people on the field are like Mahomes, Clark Hunt, Mitch Holtis, and I think somebody else. That was it. So
Everybody's
I
like,
don't know who they were lighting fireworks for,
well,
but
hey man, they got to get it on the video because it's probably going to be in the franchise. They unveiled that thing like it was a championship banner, which was a bit odd to me. But hey, I mean, GEHA paid a hefty hunk of change for all of that. I hope Clark remembers that there's an A at the end of GEH, unlike the two press conferences he did and I think on the national television interview on Monday night on the Friday night game last week where he called it GEH Field, which they're probably asking him to put the A on the end of those going forward if I was guessing next time they
oh
have
yeah,
those meetings. But like, obviously, if he can't remember that there's an A at the end of it, you guys understand what he did it for.
oh yeah.
You may not like it, but it's a business and they got to have some cash because they got to pay players. They got to upgrade facilities. And if you want to keep Arrowhead and not have to move that stadium somewhere, which I would really hate, instead of just
Oh, yeah.
putting like a retractable roof on that thing if we have to be able to get a Super Bowl in it and update it some. I don't want to have to move that stadium because there's just, as we talked about, so much history in it.
Yeah, I mean that is, I mean, you just said it right there. It's history, man. And I don't think it will. I think that that's going to be in place if I mean that's our,
But I think things like this
sanctuary.
help.
That's where we go. So
Yeah, but I think that the GEHA helps pay and helps do some of those things. Otherwise, y'all are whining about it not being regular Arrowhead. Well, what about them not playing in Arrowhead anymore?
yeah. Yeah, man, I think you nailed it for sure. I'm okay with it. I as the season gets through, man, nobody will even remember. They'll still call it Arrowhead, like you said, and it'll be something that just goes to the past, and it is what it is. But
And the ones that will call it GEHA are just trying to rile you up. Let them go. Ignore them.
I just call it Geehaw, like Geehaw up to Arrowhead, baby.
That's
Let's go.
that's the one thing that like it's way too easy to do that with for where we live. Like that just hits that Midwestern. You could call that Geehaw and everybody just be okay with like it. It is what it is. Like I said, it's business. Do I wish it wasn't there? Absolutely. But I'm beating a dead horse, but not to reference the donkeys too much on this podcast, but Mile High did it forever. It was whatever. I mean, the new Seattle arena for the Kraken is the Amazon Climate Pledge Change Arena. It's got like 7 names to it. Like, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you said, it's a business, and it'll probably change again at some point, and it'll be something else at Arrowhead.
I'll tell you, there's a reason they sold the field and not the stadium naming.
Oh, that would have been insane. Yeah.
Yeah, because you think the backlash is bad about having GEHA at the front?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If that last one ever just disappeared, good luck. I don't even.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, man, we got the Vikings coming in town,
I'm
and
excited for that actually.
yeah, I think it will be pretty cool just to get the purple back there, and I think it's cool just that the Vikings are coming in. I've always liked that game. But with that being said, what specifically are you looking forward to tomorrow? Because we know that there's some decent position battles going on. Tight end, they're looking at keeping potentially 4. Receiver, there's a lot going on there. What specifically are you looking for? And then we'll dive in a little bit based on what your answer is.
So we've been talking about the roster projections
I
inside
have
like
seen
our
that.
group for I don't know 2 weeks now because this roster, as much as everybody wants to bang on the receiving core, like for not being we don't have this or we don't have that. Yeah, we don't have one guy that is Sammy Watkins. You're correct. At this moment, we do not have one individual who is Sammy Watkins in the games that Sammy Watkins was available to play in.
Yes.
But you've got a bunch of other guys that do different things that you can use in different situations that will emulate Sammy in those situations because that's what their skill sets are for. You're going to have to use 1 or 2 of them to do it, but that's what they're going to do with it. And they basically told you that with how they've gone about dealing with the receiver spot after not getting Juju to come in and after Josh Reynolds decided to go to Tennessee and then end up behind Julio Jones anyway. And AJ Brown ended up the 3rd, which sucks like for him, but So when you're going to rotate through like that, that position group is going to be interesting, and you're going to shrink the numbers because now you've got Fortson in the tight end mix and all this. But I think the thing I want to see most is just out of a pure fun standpoint, and it's on the ones. I want to see Tyreek and Bashad outside of training camp and outside of practice, because those two dudes seem like that's a fun matchup.
Yeah.
And
Most
it's going to be fun to watch. And they were tweeting about it earlier, back and forth. Rashad said, KC. And then Tyreek said, let's not hold me tomorrow. Let's actually play. I miss you. So I want to see those two go at it a little bit. And then after we get out of that, your position battles, man. Who's playing special teams on the ones is something to super focus on.
For sure.
Pay attention to where Fountain is. Pay attention to where Kemp is. Pay attention to where you see Cornell Powell. Jody Fortson, a couple of the linebackers that are on the back end of that bubble, Harris and whatnot, like those guys back there. I'm interested to see what they're doing with Zane Anderson and DiCaprio Boodle, or those practice squad layouts, or where they're going. So who's playing on special teams with the ones is going to kind of tell you a lot about what Dave Toub thinks about the bottom of that roster.
For sure. And I was going to ask you this, and this is just kind of off the whim, but I'm kind of curious because you brought up the franchise, and I've noticed that they've interviewed specific players in the franchise, and I'm starting to kind of catch on. Do you think that they interview those players because they're predicting that they will make the roster?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
There's a couple things that they do with that. So they highlight guys like Jerick McKinnon being on there. I think tells you he's on this roster for sure.
Yeah.
Now, there are certain guys that they do that with, absolutely, where, yes, that's what they're using the franchise for. Because the team, 65 Toss Power Trap Productions, runs the franchise. They do all of that. And that's an in-house, like, that's their Chiefs production team, basically. And so they're there to, find the best stories and kind of do like a Hard Knocks thing, where, honestly, most of the team-produced content lately has been better than the Hard Knocks stuff has been from, like, your teams around the league. But that's not necessarily Hard Knocks' fault. They haven't exactly had a whole lot to work with the last couple times they've done it. So, and with Jerry involved in this and those teams, people don't realize this about Hard Knocks, but the team controls a lot of what comes out of Hard Knocks. And so there's tons of stuff that gets just washed down the drain that you never see. And that happens with this stuff too, but they're doing things with these to highlight, like, Andrew Wiley is a guy that I think they could be doing one of two things with that. They could be highlighting him because he's going to be like our backup swing guard / third tackle if Rimmers is down and we lose Brown or Niang. Or they're doing that because they're wanting to show him off as a trade piece to other people. More name recognition on the internet, then people look at his tape. So with that way, when he is cut, people realize, or isn't cut, but is available for trade before the cut down day or whatnot. Because we're going to lose, like, there's guys on this roster that are going to play for other teams this year and probably start for other teams in some instances, especially with this line group, unless injuries take it down. That line group has 13 guys in it still after they cut Rankin and Witzman.
Yeah.
So you've still got a whole bunch of dudes in that line group. They're not keeping 13. They're not keeping 12. They're not keeping 11. It's 10 or 9. So they're cutting or trading between 3 and 4 guys.
Yeah.
So those are pieces that Veach is going to go do. Like, you saw trades today with random players from, like, there was a punter from somebody, the Panthers and the Giants traded for a punter and a 7th round swap. Like, okay.
I saw that corner
The Ravens traded Sean friggin' Wade to the Patriots for 2 picks, which, good luck, I guess. I honestly hope that kid, because his junior year, man, he was rated like way up here, and then senior year happened, and then the Cornell Powell turned him inside out like 4 times in that playoff game, and not good, good. And then, from all understandings, typically guys don't get traded that teams really like and have high ceilings on.
Yeah.
And he's a rookie.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, the
Patriots are trying to fill a hole with that. So it's like stuff like that where if you really want to pay attention to weird stuff or like the more inner workings of stuff and not just the grassroots level of like, oh, these guys are on the team. Because this roster, if you listen to Times Ours, and I think if you pay attention to the Chiefs and you don't listen to Time Czars, you're probably missing some things just because how good those guys are.
Yeah.
But it's 100% true. Most of this roster's been decided since last year.
Yeah.
Like there was probably only 7 or 8 spots that were really up for debate / argument. So it's, if you want to focus on stuff, focus on the back end, the underbelly, and those bottom end guys, because they're going to factor in, and then pay attention to what we get out of the guys that we might have cut in trades that Veach works out.
Yeah, for sure.
And also don't be surprised if he goes hunting cut players from other places. He may go steal a veteran from somewhere.
I'm glad you asked that, because that kind of brought some awareness when obviously we had Clyde questionable with his ankle injury. We didn't know how severe the high ankle was. And then we had Darnell, or Daryl Williams, excuse me. I don't keep saying Darnell. Daryl.
There's like 7 Williams on the team. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And half of them are all named Daryl,
yeah.
and they're all spelled differently.
Yeah. So Williams obviously was on the concussion protocol. So that really kind of made your Jerick McKinnon your starter. Mm-hmm. Darwin was obviously your 2, and then Gore was your 3. Do you think I see that? Do you think that is a position that they're going to be potentially addressing? Because not
right now, not early. I mean, they've got the depth they want at it. Clyde's, it's not a high ankle. It was just an ankle, and it was a precautionary. We took him out as a preseason game. You're done. Go sit down. He was at walkthroughs. Now, he didn't do part of the drills on Wednesday or whatever. He did the first half, but not the second half. Same with Daryl. I think that's probably just, we've got like 3 weeks before the opener. Let's not push it. What are we doing? We know you two are 1-2 in the backfield. It's not that confusing.
Yeah. Let's
get Jerick the work, and let's let Darwin and Derek Gore show which one of them gets the practice squad spot.
Yeah.
I think there's only one practice squad spot as far as running backs are concerned. I don't think they're going to keep more than one of those on the practice squad. And honestly, I would take Derek Gore over Darwin, and it's not because I don't like Darwin. I do love Darwin. Darwin's energy level, his grind, his want, that dude, he's afraid of absolutely nothing. I wish he would stop trying to jump over everybody when he's the smallest guy on the field. He's going to get himself killed one of these times. But it's worked out so far when he's tried it. One of these days it's going to cost him, and I'm scared for him. And like you hear Eric Bieniemy and everybody talk about it, and he's like, no, he doesn't get bonus points for jumping over people. I don't know why he keeps doing it.
Yeah, that was the funniest thing I've heard, man. When Bieniemy was, oh my God, he was.
But the other thing is,
going in on him.
He does just run hard. He gets low and he lights dudes up. The thing is, Derek Gore is bigger and runs similarly, and I don't know that there's that much of a drop-off, if any, between the two.
I think my biggest thing, and I would put Gore ahead, is just because of, if you ask to pass block, Darwin gets blown up every time, and that's just his body size. That's not really anything he's doing. It's just you got a linebacker that is downhill coming at you and blows him up. I mean, that's just how football is.
And those linebackers are not getting, they may be getting a little smaller as far as like size wise. They're not getting any less dense, and they're not moving any slower. They're getting faster, and they're hitting harder.
I mean, look at Willie Gay, man. Willie Gay is flying around.
I'm okay with not getting hit by that dude at all, ever, preferably.
You know, I did my when I did my tour of training camp, there's a section in there where Willie Gay is hitting the pad, and the sound that it made when he hit that pad, I thought something broke. And I was just like, good night, man. I would not want to get hit by that dude.
And that's why you're right. That's, like I said, that's why I like Derek in that spot too. That's why I said he's just a little bit bigger. There's a little more to him. He's got a little more thump to him. And if he steps in to take a pass block, he's not going to get blown up as easy. And it's nothing against Darwin. It's just not easy to do when you're that size. So you got to be perfect nearly on technique if you're going to be that size and pass block. And he's just not there. Now, I worry about that a little bit with Clyde, but him getting to work with Daryl Williams, who is an excellent pass blocker, and Jerick McKinnon, who, if nobody caught it during the preseason game against Arizona, stepped in and absolutely lit up Micah Parsons on a blitz like twice or 3 times in one play after the initial car wreck that happened between the two of them. Like, that is how you pass block.
Yeah.
and as a running back. And with Clyde getting to learn from those two guys, we talked about it with, we'll talk about it, I'm sure, with Fortson. And when we talk about Fountain and Kemp, it's a lot of the time with the blocking thing, you hear it be a will and want.
Yes.
It's a want to thing. You have to want to do it and be willing to put your body in there. And I'm not telling you Darwin's not willing to do that. It's just not his forte. And there's not as much body to put in there. So when somebody comes through that's 250 pounds flying at 4.4, 4.5 and hits him, it's going to do different things than it does to a guy that's a little bit bigger. So
Yeah.
that's the only thing I would say with that. I just don't think they're going to go crazy on the running back thing, because Andy's proven he's willing to go out and get running backs off the street that are sitting there in week 9 or 10 or 12 or whatever, that they'll just plug and play. It's the running back position. It's no big deal.
Well, and this kind of brings me a question to you. We know that Damian obviously was let go, and personally, I've kind of jumped on the bandwagon. A lot of people I've talked to think that he was cut because that was our push to go get Trent Williams. It didn't happen, and they were satisfied to some degree with where they were at. On this current state where we're at, Damian Williams is still currently probably the 3 in Chicago. David Montgomery is clearly the lead back. Tariq Cohen obviously is that special weapon that they have. So Damian's still kind of down there when it comes to that. If he were to not make that squad because Khalil Herbert is coming up as well, if Damian were to get cut, do you think that would be someone that they would be interested to go back and get to then throw into this running back group because he's familiar? He helped win us a Super Bowl. He could have potentially been the Super Bowl MVP. I mean, do you think that's somebody we would be interested in?
So that comes down to how many running backs you're planning on keeping on the 53. If they keep 4, sure. If they keep 3, which is what I expect them to do with Clyde, Darrell, and Jarek, I don't expect anybody else to be out there. I don't know where he's not taking Clyde's spot. He's not taking Darrell's role. And I think Jarek provides you more in other areas than Damian can. Not to say that Damian, I'm only reason Damian Williams got cut for me is the cap number when they had cheaper options that can do what he does. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
That's the only thing and it stunk when he had to opt out for the COVID year because of his mom and all that. I felt bad for the dude because that was his year to let Clyde learn behind him and go ball out and make his money to go get paid as a free agent somewhere else. And it got ruined by a pandemic. I had no control over it because I'm telling you right now, I'd 100% do the same damn thing he did.
Oh yeah.
If it's, I get to see my mom who may not be here for another couple, may not be here after 4 months or 6 months with that kind of cancer and that kind of stuff, or me playing this season. See you next year, boys.
Yeah. Most
I
definitely.
don't blame him at all. So
yeah, I don't either.
And that was, by the way, one of the weirdest things about there's always negative crap on social. That one to me, when anybody that had any kind of negative thing to say about him opting out, is just, and him or Niang or anybody else that out there, like, stop.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, man. But yeah, I'd be interested to see if that were to happen because I'm kind of wondering. I do.
They'd have to only go 3 tight ends. If they're going to keep, so they can't keep 4 running backs, a fullback, 4 tight ends, and 6 receivers. They can't because you don't have enough numbers on the other side for the depth and the line and the ball. Especially they're going to keep 10 offensive linemen.
Yeah. Well, so that leads me to, you did mention that you think Veach is going to be looking, at least trying to pluck. Where do you think that attack would be?
He's and this is where it gets tough because there's not like any huge glaring holes, but if there's a surprise cut or a guy that could make a difference, say some weird old crazy way AJ Green doesn't make it in Arizona because they've just got too many guys, which by the way, I 100% don't think that's happening, but say something silly, crazy like that happens.
Yeah.
Or Fitzgerald decides in week 8 he wants to play football again. Or they can go get a corner that gets surprise cut because of some weirdness with whatever. Like, if they can go find somebody that makes a giant improvement for not a lot, he'll go make that attempt in the either cut market or in the maybe flopping an asset like we saw with Charvarius Ward when he went and got him out of Dallas, I think it was.
Yeah.
Or when he traded Parker Inger for whoever it was from Cleveland I can't remember who the deal was for.
Was that was a corner, wasn't it?
Yeah, oh God, why is my brain not working? Anyway, he brings in these guys, and he also loves former first rounders that people cast off. Like, go look through the roster. DeAndre Baker, Mike Hughes. There's Sammy Watkins was a first rounder that basically got shipped around the league after Buffalo because of he couldn't do this, he couldn't do that. They went out and paid him and brought him in. Yeah. Like they're willing to take chances on guys with talent because they trust their internal personnel, they trust their training staff, they trust their solutions. It's what being a good franchise allows teams to do. You've seen the Ravens do it forever. You've seen the Patriots do it for 25 years now. You've seen like teams that win, that have these winning type cultures. This is what they can do. It provides you these resources, but they have a limited cap space, and they really, 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 really want to get Tyron done, and they want to make sure that they keep the big boys. So you may see them just sit on their hands and do nothing too, because they're not trying to spend anything right now. And depending on how contract restructures and stuff go, either next year or even with some cuts this year with guys, it's more about keeping that running.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: if you had to pick one surprise cut from this team, one that nobody's talking about because I've seen everything, what is your surprise cut for this squad? Like one that, and obviously I'm not holding you to this or anything, but like if you had to guess, who would you say is gone from this team?
There's a lot of competition deep in that defensive line room. There's a lot of competition deep in the offensive line room. And if they can't get value in a trade out of somebody on that offensive line, you're going to see somebody like I don't think Allegretti gets cut because he's the only other center on the roster besides Creed and Blythe's injured.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think Allegretti's going anywhere. But a guy like Andrew Wiley, because he's not a center and he's just more of a guard tackle rotation, or Laurent, the doctor, that would be an unfortunate PR look, but this isn't about PR. It's about performance on the field. And you got Kyle Long there, who's not going to get cut. That they paid him too much for the 1 year. They talked him out. Like, I just don't see them cutting him. It's tough. I guess probably would be a guy like either Wiley, or maybe on the defensive side, it'd be a guy like Tim Ward that would be just out of left field getting cut like that. Because I think Tim's done enough to make this roster. I think that's part of the reason Taco's gone. Yeah. But I also don't know what they're going to do with Kando.
Well, let me ask you this, because I wanted to see your response. Because you did mention that you feel that they might be aggressive if that person shows up. If that person shows up at the receiver spot, is Demarcus Robinson on this team?
Now, see, that's an interesting conversation, because if they can bring in a guy at that receiver spot, like you're saying, that's that step, that's that upgrade. Yeah, I don't know. Now, the weird part with D-Rob is his contract. They gave him that veteran exception minimum deal where they actually paid him like 2 point something, but his cap hit's only like the $1 million or whatever. So I don't know where that goes as far as what his cut chances are. And Tobe's comments are not an indication that they don't like the kid. He's just frustrated with him. Like, I mean, you guys are.
I mean, you watch it. You watch it. I mean, he's verbally saying what fans are seeing. So
everybody is aware he carries the ball like a loaf of bread. Sometimes everybody is aware that he gets the ball in his hands, and the favorite direction he seems to want to go is the opposite direction of the direction he should go. I understand that he thinks he is the jukiest of jukers, which is fine, but sometimes you just need to take the yardage, because now they all know you're just going to try and juke them, so they just wait for you. Sometimes you just need to hit them with the up button and go by them.
Do you think he just watched LaShawn McCoy too much?
No, because he's done that since the day he was in the league, and LaShawn was here after that. Now, do I think it may not have helped anything with having LaShawn in the room, in the building, doing the same friggin' thing? It's a possibility. But the same point of that is Andy Reid had LaShawn where?
Yeah, at Philly.
In Philly, and it isn't
Yeah.
like he didn't know. And it's also
Oh, yeah.
like it didn't get fixed in Philly. And I don't know if you've noticed, but D-Rob hasn't fixed it in the 4 years he's been here. I don't think it's getting fixed at this point, frankly.
Yeah.
And that was Tobe basically saying, D-Rob, please God, just listen, man. You're killing me right now. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I don't think he's going to say that about a guy that they're cutting unless something, like you said, crazy happens where they have a chance to bring in a guy. And then I still think it's probably, unfortunately, either Pringle, Fountain, or Kemp that gets that axe button and not D-Rob, because D-Rob's plays special teams too, and he's more in the special teams than any of the other 3 guys I just listed. Although
Yeah.
Dave Tobe loves him some Marcus Kemp. Loves him some Marcus Kemp.
See, and I think Kemp is the one just because I think Pringle has done enough to show he can return.
I would
And
think, but we've been thinking that for what, 2 years now?
well, and I think now we've seen, I mean, because here's the difference, in my opinion. We've seen Pringle go out there, put in the time, put in the effort to truly become what he is. I mean, the dude's had to earn it from the get-go. And so I think that's where we're going to see, like, that catch that he made the other day against the Cardinals, like where he juggled it, caught it, and then, like, that's the type of stuff you want to see. And so I'm all for Pringle. If he has to play that role, I'm good for that. I just think, like, I think there's a lot of question marks moving past that. And, you know, that's the crazy thing is people talk about it all the time. They're like, Mecole is struggling doing this. And I've said it, but we're critiquing him because we want him to be successful. We're not critiquing him because we want him to fail. He plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think sometimes people forget that. We're critiquing him because we want him to be better because he plays for the team we root for. So it's not that, like, if I'm criticizing how he's, you know, catching the ball and not catching the ball, I'm criticizing him because I want him to be successful and I know he can be. And so I think that's where, like, I'm frustrated because we see, and I'm not trying to just go on this rant, but we see, you know, he posts the other day on his social Twitter account, he posts that, you know, quote from Jeff Schwartz as kind of motivation. And it's like, if you're going to post that, then respond in a way that we're going to be like, okay, he saw that because we see you posting it. We see that you recognize that. Go perform and let people then start talking like, damn, I was wrong this whole time. Hardman is a baller. Instead, it's like, I don't know. That's what frustrates me is, like, you have every opportunity to go out and do those types of things. Yet at times it almost is like lackadaisical and like, and now people are saying we need it too. We needed to. We're missing it too. And it's like, I mean, I don't know what else to say. And it does get frustrating because you know that dude can ball out. He's shown it. He shows it. And it's frustrating.
So here's my thing on Mecole. He's in a tough spot because they didn't draft him to be the 2. They didn't draft him to be an X receiver. They drafted him because they didn't know what was going on with Tyreek, and they didn't know if that weapon didn't exist, we had a problem.
I have a whole nother scenario with that, but yeah, I'll go ahead.
So, and then you go into last year of him not getting the camp development. Also, his play style, yes, it sometimes looks like he's not maybe trying or running as hard. Sometimes he just doesn't look like he's moving that fast. And then you go back and watch it and you realize, oh, he's literally leaving dudes. It just doesn't look the same as what it looks like when Tyreek leaves dudes. So he's in multiple bad scenarios because, one, he wasn't drafted to be what we now need him to be. So he's having to do some things he's not really comfortable with and learn them. 2, he got drafted in between A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf. Terry McLaurin was right in there. There's a whole bunch of dudes in that whole grouping that have done different things in different offenses. Now, they've been asked to do things that Mecole's not been asked to do. Is some of that. Some of them have had more opportunity, considerably more targets, less talent around them, things like that. But again, with Mecole, it stinks because you're comparing him to all kinds of things. And if you actually go look at his numbers and what he's done and what he's been a really productive for a second-round pick in his second season. Because people also tend to forget that Tyreek wasn't exactly who Tyreek is now in year 1 or 2. He was a weapon. he was also getting compared to, at the time, one of the stupidest sentences I've ever heard in my life. But D'Anthony, like, to get to Dat, he was getting compared to Dat at points, and I'm like, he's so much different than Dat.
Yeah.
D'Anthony, as much as I love D'Anthony as a weapon, he had no way of becoming their type of receiver because he was a running back for one, and Tyreek is a freak.
Yeah.
Physically, you could tell he was a freak. It was different, but McCole is the reason that Patrick and them are as hard on him, and you see Patrick getting frustrated with him, is because of the same thing you said. They want him to succeed because they know what he can do. They know he has the skill set. They know he has the talent. He's got it all. It's just getting it together. And you hear him talk about it. You've heard Travis talk about it, and you heard Cornell Powell talk about it. This offense is different than anything you're going to do in college because this offense is a lot more unscripted, shall we say, than I think a lot of us think it is. It all looks really scripted when you go look at it and they drew all this up. But if you listen to them talk about it, a lot of it is they make decisions in the middle of the game and they don't necessarily run set routes. It's based off of what they see. That's why when everybody talks about them being on the same page, it's not, I was expecting him to run this route because this is what we called. I was expecting him to run this route because I saw this defense, I saw this adjustment, and he didn't see it, saw something else, and either didn't run it the same way or run it. So it's nuanced stuff. It's tiny margins. We're talking about, in the grand scheme of things, little itty bitty millimeter margins of stuff, but it looks super magnified on a scale like this because all this stuff is super, super important. You have to be that way. It's why it's the NFL. These guys are pros. So it's a catch-22. I think you're going to see McCole start to step into those shoes and feel in that role a little more. He's feeling more comfortable with himself, clearly. He's been pretty quiet in the past as far as when it comes to stuff like that. He didn't talk much. He doesn't say a whole lot. He talks on the field. He does his funny stuff. He's the kind of ha-ha. But as far as like talking about stuff, he doesn't really do that. That's Tyron's thing. That's Chris's thing. That hasn't really been McCole.
Yeah.
He's doing that now. Something's changed. Something's different. And you've heard Mahomes and them talk about it in camp. He's different this year. He's more mature. He doesn't make the same mistakes twice. He's grown. And that's the other part about when everybody watches that preseason game that kills me. Oh, he was terrible. Well, he caught the first two balls that were thrown his way. Then there was a throw that was pretty close that he might have been able to get to. I don't know if there was maybe a slight route communication or he didn't quite flatten it out. Then there's the one Mahomes overthrew him in the end zone on one. Yeah. And then there's the other route where Mahomes is telling him to flatten out, and then you get the pass. And that's just a learning thing on that route because that's normally a Tyreek route.
Yeah.
Now, these guys all have to know those positions, but that's not something he does every day. That's not what they ask him to do every day. So those are going to things. So that's when you see those things. It's like he then goes out with Henny and lights him up and makes a great play on a zero blitz where that was the play call. And he goes back, makes an adjustment on the ball in the back of the end zone. Probably could have got a DPI call if that was the regular season and made the catch.
Yeah.
So
I don't think he would have caught that last year. So that right there to me showed improvement.
I don't think he catches that ball. I don't even think he runs that route last year because I don't think he sees the blitz as Henny sees the blitz, and I don't think it ends up in the. That's the step that I think that Mahomes and them are talking about with him is he's starting to actually, because Mahomes said last year I didn't even start really reading defenses until week 6.
Yeah.
Like there's that interview with the shop where with LeBron and them from a couple years ago where he talks about in the year where he threw for 50 and 5, he couldn't read defenses.
Yeah.
And then, so it's a progress, and Mahomes learns things insanely fast, guys. Not everybody does that. Like what he's done, what Creed has done, if we're going to talk about like mental processing power, what Creed has done, that's not an everybody kind of deal.
Well, and I kind of wanted to elaborate too on kind of like how you say the play really develops into something outside of what they call. I think that comes with Mahomes too, because Mahomes will roll out and to make plays happen. Well, at that point, the play's broken anyway, so you got to be able to manufacture something. And so, yeah, they may call some, whatever, but at some point, the play, he could be rolling out because, the blitz came from this side and really compounded on this side, and he's got to roll out. Well, that play's broken. You got to be able to get out there and do what you got to do. So, yeah, I think a lot of it is unscripted.
Those absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm talking about on like the play calls. So there's a quote. Josh Briscoe from Sports Radio 810 did an interview with McCole at some memorabilia show or
Yeah, up at the
something. He
casino.
interviewed Powell too, but I think it was
Yeah.
McCole he interviewed there as well. And there's a quote in there where McCole says, "Yeah, sometimes when Patrick and Travis do something, you'll go back and watch the play and go like, whoa, wait a minute, that wasn't the route that was called." Like that's what I mean when I like they
Yeah.
change things that the play call is made and then
Hmm.
something different happens because they saw the same thing. And
Yeah.
Tyreek does that with him at times where I'm convinced a couple of the deep balls where Tyreek gets guys is because he's supposed to run some little slant crosser short thing and sees a guy trying to attack that and just roasts him down the field. Like
Uh-huh.
the Sandlot be on the same page, like the joking about them being telepathic with Kelsey and him and that kind of stuff. Man, they have to. That's why this offense runs like that, is because that's how they operate together. So having that's a benefit in that, but it's hard for young guys to do. That's why I think you're going to see Noah take a little time this year to get into things too. I don't even know if Cornell's going to make this roster, to be honest with you.
I've been hearing that a lot. I hear practice squad for him, and
If he can get in there,
yeah, that's what's crazy. I mean, he's definitely just and that's something that we always, I think, fabricate in our minds that just because he was drafted means he's going to make this squad, and that's not always the case. I mean,
well, it has been for Veach since he took over for Andy. They have not cut a draft pick the year they have drafted him.
correct. I'm just
Now,
saying, like, we just feel like that should happen, and that's not always the case. And I mean, this could be that example.
I actually think that's what we're going to see this year. And you're right. It is the case for really good organizations. I talked about it earlier. We were talking about Baltimore and New England. They cut draft picks. Do you know why?
Yeah.
Because some of those guys that they've got in the building are deeper than what they've got in the draft picks. Sometimes you draft a guy and he doesn't pan out. It's okay. It's going to happen. It's also maybe not that he's not panned out. It's just that he's not ready yet to crack a squad that's ready to go to a championship. That's going to happen. So everybody needs to not panic if him or Kando or both end up cut and tried to slide to the practice squad. It's a very likely possibility. They may not get to the practice squad because some other team may claim them off waivers. Stuff's going to happen too, but that's okay. That's a good thing because that means our roster is good enough that they couldn't get on it.
Yeah. I'm if that happens, I'm all for it because they made the decision based on, what we are seeing, but they're going in much deeper, obviously. And I'm a big advocate right now of Fountain. I think he's having a tremendous showing.
Goosebumps.
I like him, but I really do like what Fortson's putting out there too. I mean, we're starting to see those two guys kind of start to click and really figure out what they need to do to make this squad. And I like it. I like that we're going to do that. I like the fact that we might be running a Rhino package with 3 tight ends on the field. I think that's incredible. The only thing I kind of wanted to ask, and I don't think it's going to happen, I think there's like a 5% chance, but we did mention when Gray was drafted, he was going to play a little bit of H-back and maybe plug him in there at times. I was thinking that there might have been a chance Burton may get cut, but now that I look back, Sherman was on this squad forever, and it's like Andy has to have a fullback, and I'm like, yeah, I just don't think it's happening. But I thought, I was thinking there for a second, like if you truly have some guys that you like, I need to make this roster because they're showing out, then that could have been a spot, but I just don't think that they've eclipsed that yet, and I think he makes this squad.
It crossed my mind for about a tenth of a second.
Yeah.
And then it immediately left for a couple of the reasons you mentioned and a couple I'll give you. So the two that you mentioned are one, Andy and fullbacks is just going to happen, and it just is what it is.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. Now, they're going to be required to do something, and that's going to be a special teams ace.
Yeah.
Because they have to for the amount of snaps they're going to get in the offense.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to see him get used more this year than you've seen Sherman used. I think you may see him get used more than Sherman got used in a couple of years combined. I think he's a little different than Sherman. He's a little more athletic. He's a little more agile on his feet. Not to say that Sherman wasn't, but he looks different in that aspect.
Would you say he's more of like a use check from San Francisco?
A little bit. I think not quite. Maybe a little. He's not Kyle Juszczyk. Kyle Juszczyk is a stud, but
yeah,
he is definitely a special team, all special team phases, He will make a difference, and they're going to do some 13 personnel there, and he may be the back in the 13 personnel to go real heavy and be crazy and do stuff. Like, you're going to see some different things, and I think Patrick said it in one of his quotes. The thing he's most excited about is how different or how variable they're going to be this year, and how
Oh, yeah.
diverse they're going to be able to be. And we've seen it a little bit. That screen game is coming back, and I am so ready for the screen game to come back.
I'm excited.
The running game in the power schemes and just drive off, because we have the guys that can do it. They told you what they want to do. They want to be diverse, and they want to be able to do different things, and they've got all kinds of weapons to do all different things with. You're going to see some stuff we haven't seen since the Alex Smith days in some packages and play calls this year.
You know what I think is exciting, because I think this is truly what it is that they're going to be able to really game plan based on who their opponent is. And if they need to run the football that game, they have every opportunity to do that. If they know that they have a good run defense and they need to really throw the ball, they'll have the opportunity to do that. Where before, maybe it was strictly passing and they were like, okay, we can run the football if we have. I think now it's like, we can do whichever one we need to do, and we're going to do it at the best of our ability. And I think that's what's going to be unique.
The next evolution of this offense, I think, is this year, and it starts this year. And it's going to come because they can run power out of run pass option, which you're not supposed to be able to do. Like, they're going to be able to present problems that most offenses we've seen ever can't create. And you talked about a guy that I am so hopeful makes this roster. Darius Fountain he just looks like that dude. He's got the size. That him wearing 82 with dreads and that did not help. And then Louis Riddick was sitting there. Who's he look like, Brian? And I'm screaming at my television set, Dwayne Bowe, screaming at it. Like, except he's faster.
Yeah.
And
he catches the ball over the middle.
And I think he might be now. Let's not. I will talk Dwayne Bowe's defense till I die. He played with some god awful cornerbacks, and he played for. That dude did everything, and then he got paid, and then he couldn't catch a cold. It happens. It is what it is.
I gotta poke at Dwayne Bowe, man. I
Go look at that man's receiving numbers in Chiefs history. He gets slept on all the time.
I get it, but I gotta poke it a little bit. I do get it. I get it, but I do gotta poke it.
I agree, but if you get a faster Dwayne Bowe in this offense, first of all, you talked about Fortson. We're going to see jump balls this year. I'm almost positive we're going to see jump balls this year. Not just to Travis, because everybody that's like, first of all, we don't have to really throw jump balls to Travis because he hurts defenders, ankles, knees, and all ligaments and tendons. Ask Denzel Ward. So you don't really have to worry about that with him, but they're going to have the opportunity, especially if they keep both those guys on the roster. They're going to have the opportunity to do some different stuff. I talked about this a little bit. I can't remember if it was in the Spaces thing that Josh Briscoe did after the Arizona game, or if it was on the pod last week that Garrett and I just did. But Fortson and Fountain provide you options. Like, Fortson can play tight end, but if you're getting a pinch where you have receiver, somebody gets hurt, he's already played receiver in the system, for one. He knows it all. And he's basically just a big X at that point.
Yeah.
So if you got to slide him outside to the receiver spot, that's where I think you're going to end up with them keeping 10 pass catchers. And I think you're going to end up with it. For me right now, where I'm sitting, the 10 pass catchers are the 4 that you're guaranteed, which are Tyreek, McCole, D-Rob, and Pringle. And then I think it's Fountain and Kemp. And then I think it's all 4 of the tight ends. I think Bell and Kelsey and Fortson and Gray all make this roster. Burton is on this roster, and you get 3 running backs, 2 quarterbacks, and you're done with this.
I'm in agreement with that, man. 100% on board for that.
I just don't know where else you can go there, because the other guys just haven't. I like Cornell. They obviously don't think he's giving them enough. He's not getting reps with the 2s. He didn't get reps with the 3s, from what I could tell. It was mostly fourth quarter duty. I don't know if they're hiding him. I don't know if he's just not developing fast enough, which, again, rookie, fifth year, or fifth rounder. And he really only had 1 season in college where he showed out, was there. So, like,
and was at a very good college.
He may be a little slower on the development end. That's perfectly okay. So it's just tough. And that's, I think, the same spot you're going to end up with Kando. because that defensive line room, especially at the edge position, now that Chris Jones is an edge, because you can call him defensive tackle. He's going to come off the edge a lot this year,
yeah.
and I feel bad for tackles because they're going to get eaten. Yeah. Can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah, let's do it.
Chris Jones on the edge at 295. I don't know if I can put that in air quotes hard enough. And has been. Tackles aren't built for guys that are 295 pounds that can power rush like he can on the outside and be able to bend. Like he's going to, you go back, there's Brian Baldinger did a Baldy's breakdown of like 5 snaps of Chris Jones in the first quarter of that Arizona game, where in 5 plays, 3 of them, he literally caused all 3 destructions on Arizona's drive. He blew up a run play in the backfield because they tried to block him with a tight end, which please God, NFL teams keep trying to block Chris Jones with a tight end. If you don't like your quarterback or your running back, block that man with a tight end.
Max Williams had no idea where Chris Jones went. Max Williams was like, what just happened?
I felt so bad for that dude. Like, if you're him and you roll over there on that side and you're like, that's my blocking assignment, you look back at the quarterback like, are you sure about we're doing
go that way.
I'm the backside blocker for this dude. Okay, yeah, sure, sounds great. He never even touched him.
Yeah.
The ball is snapped. He went to hit Chris Jones. Chris Jones patted him on the shoulder pad on the way by and ate the running back in the backfield. Everybody was worried about what he's going to look like on run defense from the edge. Derek Nottie didn't play in that game.
Correct. And that goes to like how the improvement that Kalen Saunders and the chip on the shoulder he has.
I'm so happy for him. I was so frustrated last year for him, and then watching like that stunk so bad, but it wasn't necessarily because Turk Wharton didn't earn it. Turk took it. Now they're playing together, and boy, howdy, does that look like a fun second group in the middle. That's where I don't think you even need to worry about Jones inside. You have Jaron Reed, Derek Nottie, Tershawn Wharton, and Colin Saunders inside. You can do whatever you want out at the edge.
Mike Dan has been bumping in there too, bouncing back and forth between DN and D tackle.
I've been saying this everywhere I've been, and I'm going to say it as much as I can. I cannot imagine that this doesn't look a whole lot more like Spags' 07 Giants defense. They're going to line up, and there's going to be times where all those dudes are standing up.
Yeah.
And they're not going to know who's coming from where and where they're going. And I was talking about this before they cut Taco, which I was surprised by the Taco cut. I'm a little sad for him. I think it was it's mostly injury related. I think if he's fully healthy, he probably makes this roster pretty comfortably at the end spot, which means then you have another hard decision because Mike Dana and Tim Ward have both looked good. Damone Harris is still in that group too. Like but with those 4 inside, Chris can do whatever he wants. And with Tershawn and Colin, his name is Colin. I want to call him Kalen too all the time, but his name's Colin. And Dana, they have 3 more guys that can go inside or outside. Tershawn Wharton can rush from the edge.
Oh, yeah.
Colin Saunders can rush from the edge. Colin Saunders can also apparently play linebacker if we need him to in week 17. But
yeah, that was an interesting discussion point. But yeah, I'll let you go.
It gives you a versatility, and with the 07 Giants, if you don't remember, go back and watch that group. Osi Umenyiora, Justin Tuck, they were loaded up front, and they would stand up and run from everywhere. They'd slide Justin Tuck and Jason Pierre-Paul and Osi Umenyiora all down inside together and go fight and just eat. Like they're going to do some different things that you've not seen before with this defensive line. It's going to give Spagnuolo the ability to be more multiple with his blitz packages, which like he needed more help with being more multiple with those. I think you're going. All right, fine. I think you're going to have a top 10 defense and a top 5 offense this year.
Hey, I've been calling that too. So I'll be on that wagon with you, man.
If the defense plays to their top, if the defense plays to their top, you may have a top 5 and a top 5.
I mean, that would be incredible. I've been saying top 10 for the defense for sure. We know
if they do that, I don't care who we play or when we play them.
Yeah. I mean, we just have to, and I'm just not going to say it because I don't want it to happen, but that's why you create depth. I mean, that's why we created the depth we have, because anyone can be plugged in and go eat, man. And that's what's awesome about this. But
You
I
watched
have
it
one
with
more
that old
question.
line.
Yeah, I have one more question before I wrap this up, man. We definitely got to do this again because this has been
Yes.
incredible. Which game are you looking forward to the most on the schedule?
See, that's so difficult because the front half of the schedule is loaded up with a lot of the main big, like blockbuster, big billboard games.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Baltimore week 3 is an interesting one. Cleveland is the opener. I'm hopefully going to be in the building for the opener, so that'll be fun. Looking forward to that. Um, but probably the Packers game.
Okay.
Um, I think it's probably Tampa Bay and Green Bay in the East this year again, or in the NFC again. And that game, for 100 different reasons, is interesting if you just started with Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's going to talk to you about the differences and where the two franchises are, which I think is an interesting thing to think about and look at, because if you look at where the Packers are with Aaron and where Kansas City is with Patrick, you never want Kansas City to get with Patrick where Green Bay is with Aaron.
Correct.
And that's not necessarily fully on the Packers, because we're not going to sit here and pretend Aaron Rodgers isn't necessarily difficult to deal with sometimes. Everybody has their times, but there are things you can do as an organization
Mm-hmm.
to make things less difficult or contentious, and it's an interesting something to pay attention to. And I also think it's going to show you where the defenses of those two teams are if there is to be a Super Bowl rematch.
Mm-hmm.
Who's got what where, and it's just a measuring stick game, kind of the last one late in the season. Not to discredit some of the other teams down there, but like, unless the Chargers are just finally what the media has been calling them for a half decade or more, like there's the back half of that schedule is not anything like the front half. So
Yeah.
that Packers game is kind of the litmus test one for me, especially if they go undefeated in the first set all the way through those first 6 or 7. That Packers game is basically the last one that I'm like, if they it's going to sound bad, but if they choose to win the game, that they can win the game. Like, that's the last one where if they chose to win it and they don't win it, I wouldn't be surprised. But if the rest of them, it's mostly going to be like, don't beat yourselves and don't get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm my favorite. I'm looking forward to that game one. I think that Browns is going to be. I do think it's going to be a test just because it's the first one, and
Mm.
it's going to be full Arrowhead again. Some of those guys haven't experienced that yet, and I think that's going to be because last year in the playoff game it wasn't full capacity, and
Nope.
so that's
I
going to
would
be a very
suggest that they stop providing bulletin board material.
yeah because I think
I'm
this is going
talking
to be
about
amazing.
Cleveland,
Oh
because
yeah,
there's been some quotes already where it's like, I wouldn't look, y'all, like, this guy acts like Jordan. He doesn't, he makes things up to make himself mad, and then you pay for it later. Like, giving him stuff for free is not something I would do.
yeah,
Like, that's just
no,
a general rule of thumb with guys like that, is I don't try to give them something to make them want even more. Like, if you walk in there and think I don't matter, I'm probably better off than if you walk in there mad like I said something about you.
yeah,
Is usually how I approach dudes like that, because we've all played against guys like that. And if you've played any sport, anytime, anywhere, ever, you've played against dudes like that,
mm-hmm.
where they get better the madder or the more frustrated or the more disrespected that they feel. Like, hell, New England made a whole brand out of it for like 15 years. Remember all the stupid, cheesy,
Oh,
oh, nobody believes in us,
little
all that
clips,
crap.
yeah.
Yeah. Guess what? That's coming. The counting on the fingers to 10, the counting on the fingers to 4. He knows. These guys know it's different now. And
That's
he
why
has the mentality like you've seen in the Jordan documentary, and I want no part of it.
that's
If
why I'm
I'm
excited
any of
for
them,
Oakland to come to Kansas City. There's going to be some bus thing going around, man. So there's going to be
there's
something.
I think first touchdown there's a bus celly, and I would not be remotely surprised by it.
And I think that game they don't let up on the gas, no pun
Uh-uh.
intended.
No, after what happened, and Andy and John have been friends or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
these two organizations do not want anything to do with one another. They don't like one
Mm-mm.
another. They never have. They never will. It's Coast versus Midwest. It's the black hole versus the kingdom. It's the players. Like, go listen to Jeff Allen and Mike DeVito talk about Raider Week.
Oh, yeah.
Go listen to Jeff Schwartz and Mitch Schwartz and these guys talk about playing the Raiders. It's different. And after what happened last year with the bus, and then that second game was closer than they wanted it to be. Good luck, John. I wish you and that defense that's put together with Band-Aids and glue and some bubble gum and some rubber bands. Good luck. Because they're going to come out. This may look like the Jamal Charles screen game where they just, here's what's coming. By the way, I hope you think you can stop it, because you can't.
Yep. Oh yeah. I think the Chiefs are going to eat that game, and I think
Trey Smith in that game, y'all. If you want somebody to watch for Raiders weeks, watch Trey Smith.
Yeah.
You guys think he's mean and nasty with the general undertones and like training? Like there's quotes about him like, "Hey, dog, those are your teammates. It's training camp. Let's go a little Raider week." Ooh, somebody gonna have to be like, "Hey, Trey, under 150, like between 120 and 150, not over 150 though, because that's 15 yards, and we can't do that." Like,
man, we're gonna see some unnecessary roughness from an offensive guard, man.
He is just nasty, man, and I love it. But he is just nasty.
Yeah,
he has that edge where he plays exactly to that whistle.
Oh yeah, and threw it a little bit.
Yeah. It's really loud some places. Those whistles are kind of hard to hear. And like, that dude said something about me and tried to punch me in my junk. So like, yeah, what? I grabbed him by his jersey and dropped him on his face a little bit after the whistle. Who knew?
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'm a different breed. I come from hockey. So that stuff, those little scrums in front of the net and all that noise, that's normal to me. That's an all the time thing. And I feel like the linemen down in the trenches deal with that on a routine play-by-play regular basis. So, I mean, you hear the techniques are described as punches and got like it's a fight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. I hear you, man. Kyle, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on, man. This was absolutely incredible. Definitely 100% have to make this happen again for sure.
I loved it. Thanks for having me. And yeah, maybe you'll have to come make a little appearance over on the Kingdom Says, huh?
I would love to
work some stuff out.
I would love to. That's one thing I definitely, told Garrett, if I could get both of you guys on at the same time, that would be even more incredible too, because you guys, that podcast is awesome to listen to.
Got our boy Tommy Boy over there too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We'll do we'll get something together. I'm brainstorming some stuff. We got some ideas. We might do a before the season roundtable with as many of the content guys as I can get from inside the kingdom to do a Chiefs preview of the season. Maybe I don't really want to do it before the 53 because we're all going to sound like idiots trying to guess the 53, and that's just going to be stupid. Like, I mean, honest with you, like, go listen to the guys that actually have people that they talk to. They're like, yeah, the 53-man roster is a dice roll. Like, there are so many things that they could do. They could keep 4 safeties. They could keep 5 safeties. They could keep 4 running backs. They could keep 3 running backs. They may only keep 4 linebackers.
Yeah.
And then if they only keep 4 linebackers, who's out there? Because you've got Willie, Hitch, Neiman, Bolton, and Cobb.
Mm-hmm.
And Amari Cobb had the green dot last year when injuries happened. And I believe he had it in the first preseason game before Nick Bolton did with the 3s, and Bolton went with the 4s as the green dot. Mm-hmm. So I'm not telling you they're cutting Nick Bolton. I highly, 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 highly doubt they're cutting their second round pick.
Yeah.
Especially because he's supposed to be Hitchens' replacement, I'm assuming. Tea leaves, everybody's kind of guessed it at this point. Hitchens knows it too. He came into camp lighter for a reason. He looks much better. But like, that's what I'm saying. Like, stuff like that, guys. It'll be fun. I want to get kind of a breakdown for everybody. So we'll try to do I haven't fully vetted it out with Garrett yet, and I don't know how we'll be able to do it with like how many people I was thinking about. We'll have to game plan it, but even if it's only in audio form, do a big round table with all the guys around, yourself, us, Mr. Foot. See if we can't get some of the other boys on from a couple of the other places. There's tons of content out there, guys. That's one thing I love about Chiefs Kingdom is, and everybody supports each other. You talked about it a little bit earlier, but
Yeah, for
the
sure.
guys over at
That's
the Spoken and everybody.
Yep. That's what's been incredible about joining this community, man. Is it's definitely been supportive and it's just been awesome. And I was gonna say I get to meet you in person on September 11th at Twisters.
Yes.
So we'll be doing that as well. I'm excited and looking forward to that as well. So
That'll be a good time if you're a Chiefs content creator, or if you just want to meet a bunch of the Chiefs content creators. We're going to be out at Twisters in Bonner Springs at an event put on by the artist chief Corey himself, and some of the guys. I think it's actually Chris's restaurant, Chris Chauncey's restaurant, is where we're meeting at. So it'll be fun. It'll be a good time. It'll be the night before the preseason or before the opener.
Opener.
Spoiler, that's kind of why I'm hoping to be in the building for the opener, because planning on being up there. I'm a Wichita resident and Wichita kid, grew up down
here. So okay.
Got to journey up to some of these for that kind of stuff. And then you're going to get to meet Garrett, who, if you guys aren't familiar, he is not anywhere near Kansas City on the map. He's flying in for this one. So if you want to meet us or meet him or anybody like that you may not get a chance to meet other places, come out and see us at Twisters out in Bonner Springs. It'll be a good time.
It'd be awesome, man. Well, again, thank you for coming on. It means a lot, man. And as you guys know how we wrap this up, you know how we close this out. As always, I appreciate you checking out the Beat of KC, and have a good night.